I'm assuming at some point, someone in the room had to raise their hand and say, hey, we're about to make a product that potentially is supposed to put someone in the hospital at some point if they have a real bad reaction. And that, one, is terrible it's awful for the child, awful for branding, awful for your PR. And then potentially there are lawsuits behind that. How do you get a company like that insured that, if you go to like a certain theme parks, they'll make you sign these waivers every time that say, death and dismemberment, you won't hold us liable, things like that. You can't exactly have your customers sign something like that every time they buy a package of your product. So, right. I mean, at what point when you decide, when you discovered, you are technically setting out something that could really hurt someone or put someone in the hospil. How do you handle that?
We knew the risks. I knew the risks at founding this company. Yeah. To answer the real question of being a potentially dangerous product, we have three major things we thought about. The first two are boring and unimportant, and the last one was the most important. The first one is legal liability. It's boring, but you just have to know what you're covered. So
of course
we talked to many lawyers, and essentially our liability is the same as peanut butter. We're telling you to introduce allergens early. We're helping you do that, but we're not telling you that do this in the absence of a medical professional. You're going to introduce allergens. At some point, you're going to introduce allergens, and we'd like to be the first, but you should consult a physician before you do that.
Of course.
And so we crafted language around introducing allergens and making sure that you spoke to a physician before introducing any new foods. Mm-hmm. And then if you experienced reactions that looked like this, and this, that immediately call a healthcare professional. And so that's boring thing number one. Boring thing number two is to have a PR plan. So there's the blocking and tackling of having prepared statements and action plans if, God forbid, somebody did get hurt and they didn't properly understand the risks. And so we had that all in place. And now the third is the most important, and that was really just the most important, which is having excellent customer success, having excellent customer support. So we made sure that all of our service times for picking up the phone were less than 5 minutes, no matter what.
Nice.
No matter what time of day, forever. So we would do that and make sure that we were with any patient that had any rash or any reaction as quickly as possible. And we had a playbook of helping. So where were their nearest allergists? Where's their nearest hospital? And making sure that we, to the degree that we told them not just to hang up and call a healthcare professional, but when they called us back, that we could actually help them down their path. Now, awesome. I remember all of us were up at night, thinking about this because we're good people, right? We don't want to have a family on Inspired Start succumb to an allergic reaction that's just terrible, right? But
of course.
So having that top of mind is just important as a cultural company value, is written right into our values. Of course, the family comes first, and how that manifests is that we were just scared all the time, and it's a company killer, and we don't want it to harm individuals. Now, it actually happened. The first time somebody had a severe reaction was about 6 months into the launch of Inspired Start. The parent called us with their child's in allergic shock, anaphylactic shock, and we immediately told them, of course, hang up and call 911.
Yeah.
They went to the hospital, and they called us back the next day. We helped them link up with a nearby allergist that we tremendously trust, and they got on a path to a treatment plan for their child's newfound allergies. And so that was sort of the core of it. But what was the most important of all of this was that the parent posted an Amazon review that same day, the day after they went to the hospital, and it was a 5-star Amazon review. They said that I've never felt safer than with
Sent
Inspired
my kid
Start.
to the hospital, 5 stars.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. So, They said
Awesome.
when we arrived at the hospital, we knew exactly what had happened. We knew that, and I brought the pouch. We brought the pear egg pouch to the physician. They said, "Oh, it looks like your child's allergic to egg." And they said, we would not have known that. We would not have been able to do that. We wouldn't have been able to identify that in any other food. And there's egg in everything. So they were judicious enough to introduce egg for the first time with our product. And so they knew exactly what the allergic reaction was too. And they had a controlled small amount while they were watching their child. And they said that their journey through this process, they imagined other scenarios of introducing allergen without them knowing it, or in a higher dose without paying attention. And they sort of shuddered to think of what that might have been like.
That's awesome.
Because this child had a severe reaction. So they said in their review that there's a small list of companies that they trust, and Inspired Start is at the very top. And so that was incredibly meaningful to us and incredibly validating. And it was awesome. You go to sleep every night being like, is this the right thing for the world? You know, statistically it's the right thing. You know, everyone should introduce allergens, but to be that entrepreneur, to be that company, all of us, everybody on the team felt that burden of doing the right thing for each family individually.